I'm fully aware that I'm ultimately responsible for the situation that has harmed the university as a whole and our Department of Athletics and our football program. I want to apologize to Buckeye Nation. I followed my heart, not my head. I fell short in pursuing full information because at each juncture, I gave Zach Smith the benefit of the doubt.
Remember when you were in third grade and you hated social studies, but you still had to make a speech in front of the class, but you simply couldn't care less how it went or what your grade was or in any way anyone else that you affected? Urban Meyer was his third grade self tonight. Meyer was a third grader in his prepared statement and a third grader in his maturity level. There are 300 million points to discuss following Ohio State's 3-game suspension of Meyer. 3 games for the man in grade 3, I guess. But in the end, this all goes back to something pretty simple. Forget the semantics and the details of this for 3 seconds. Victims of domestic abuse are afraid to come forward for a lot of reasons. In this case, college football is big money, and that will scare just about anyone in this situation. Fortunately, it didn't scare Courtney Smith. Unfortunately, Courtney Smith is basically pushed aside with this 3-game suspension. Courtney Smith is also why I used the term third grader to describe Urban Meyer tonight. Why? His reaction to the one question at the press conference, the one single question that was about the woman who suffered more than anyone else throughout this.
What message do you have for Courtney Smith?
Well, I have a message for everyone involved in this. I'm sorry that we're in this situation. And I'm just sorry we're in this situation.
I mean, are you kidding me? Whether it was his intention or not, Meyer comes off tonight as smug, arrogant, and thoughtless. The audacity of this man to brush off Smith and include anyone else in that answer besides her is frankly terrifying. Sure, he's inconsiderate and insensitive, but there's one thing he's not: in trouble. Anyone out there really think his overall record and his 3 national championships didn't play a role in this? He had the backing of the entire fan base and the university. Imagine if this was a 500 coach that fans were ready to see gone. And once again, that's the issue. But kudos to Courtney Smith for speaking up and hopefully giving victims of domestic violence another voice, even when others try to keep them silenced. On Monday, Central Florida upset Auburn 34-27 to win the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. The Knights and Scott Frost did everything the right way this year, won all their games, handled Frost's move to Nebraska with class. All of it was awesome to watch. The aftermath of their win, though, is getting uglier by the day. Let's start with a simple fact. You cannot compare wins by using the transitive property of equality. That needs to stop. Just because Central Florida beat Auburn, who beat Alabama and Georgia, does not mean UCF is better than the entire SEC. It's also a little over the top for Central Florida to declare itself national champions, although in fairness, the school is going to pay its coaches their national championship bonus. Even so, the team did not go to the playoff and did not win the national championship. This, however, is not to entirely knock UCF for its stance, because its stance is part of a much bigger issue. Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby told ESPN's Heather Dinich today that he's not looking to expand the playoff, but more ridiculously, told her UCF was treated fairly because the Knights likely wouldn't be undefeated had they played in a Power 5 conference. Quote, they have some big games, but they don't have an Iowa State who can beat Oklahoma. By the way, Iowa State lost to 5 games this year, and 4 of those were to unranked teams. Either way, I absolutely hate this reasoning. I hate it. Commissioner Bowlesby, with all due respect, you don't know that it's likely they'd be undefeated. No one knows that. And that's why the NCAA system is totally, absolutely flawed. Prove that Scott Frost didn't just assemble the best staff in the country coupled with the best recruits in the country. Prove that. You can't. There is quite literally no way to prove that UCF wasn't the best team in the country this year. And that's a huge problem. And in case you're wondering about little old Central Florida and its little old conference, the school is the biggest in the state of Florida, besting Florida itself by more than 9,000 students. Florida State is 5th. That school, UCF, can't produce the best team in the country? Are we 100% sure Central Florida's players aren't as good as those in the Power 5? Well, if you believe the recruiting rankings in the last 5 years, the Knights were at its lowest 79th and at its peak 55th. Taking that into consideration, 13-0 must have been an absolute miracle. All right, look, there are years that the non-Power 5 conference team might just be the best in the nation, yet we'll never get a chance to find out. How is that a fair system? 04 Utah, 06 Boise, 08 Utah, 09 Boise, and 2010 TCU all deserve to know if their undefeated seasons were good enough to match with the big boys. 2017, UCF did too. And just so you know the arrogance associated with all of this, and UCF and every other non-Power 5 program that they must face, Bowlesby added this, Jim, at the end, quote, "If TCU and UCF played 10 times, I defy anyone to convince me that UCF would win the majority of the games." And now the arrogance. Of course, I've only been looking at it for 35 years. That's why all of this is a total sham for UCF and any team like them.
I'm okay. I feel bad for the kids. You know, if I don't win another game, life's going to go on. I mean, I wanted those guys to have that championship. I'm good. You know, my life's great, to be honest with you. I'm a lucky individual.
Great perspective from Arkansas head coach Dave Van Horn, but he's certainly hurting over the Hogs College World Series title series loss. This one will sting in the natural state for a while. Now, sometimes leaders aren't defined by what they do right. They are defined by how they lead when things go wrong. Certainly nothing will sting that fan base more than what happened Wednesday night. The Razorbacks one strike away from their first ever national championship, and that foul ball falls between three guys. Second baseman Carson Shaddy, the senior, wanted to make that play, and you can see it in how hard he was running to get there. Shaddy was a leader for Arkansas baseball and showed it even more so by his reaction to the reaction. To be honest, this is the point in the commentary. I was ready to show you how horrible people were to him on Twitter. Shaddy admitted people were horrible to him. But then he told Arkansas radio personality Bo Mattingly something better. He said for every bad email or tweet that he received, he got 5 that were good, 5 that expressed love. And that's the reminder from all this. There are a lot of good people out there doing good things in people's lives to pick them up, not tear them down. Shaddy said it ripped his heart out that he didn't make the play. It hurt Shaddy way more than it hurt some random Arkansas fan. But sometimes leaders aren't defined by what they do right. They are defined by how they lead when things go wrong. And it's time for all of us to become better leaders, just like Carson Shaddy. Also today, Brecken Hager issued an apology with a statement through Texas. Following the game Saturday, I informed Hager that Kansas scored 40 on Oklahoma, to which he responded, "But OU has no defense." He then looked at the clock and added, "It's 11-12 and OU still sucks." The latter is why the Big 12 issued a public reprimand today. And follow along as we read Brecken's statement. Blah, 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 which translates, I don't believe Brecken believes this statement. The Big 12's public reprimand is a very serious and university-altering reprimand. Other reprimands issued by the league include Iowa State fans storming the field, Bob Huggins going off on terrible referees, Kansas player refusing to shake OU players' hands at midfield. The list itself weeps because it goes on and on and on. The majority of the incidents aren't spur-of-the-moment thoughts. They are emotions and feelings after a game, and goodness gracious, they are totally fine. If West Virginia wide receiver David Sills wants to throw the horns down after he scores a touchdown, my goodness, let him. Who cares? The 15-yard penalty flag was ridiculous for a lot of reasons, but one of the most important, it hasn't been a penalty in 125 years of UT football. If horns down was a penalty, it would force Oklahoma to fold as a football program. The point in all of this, just stop issuing ridiculous public reprimands that literally do nothing. This isn't the inmates running the asylum. Let some guys enjoy their college experience. Throw the horns down. Say it's 11-12 and OU sucks. Because let's be honest, it's a real good thing the coaches and players aren't mic'd up for games, because the Big 12 might just try to throw all of them in jail.